Now, I made a video about the TC Helicon H1, the intelligent harmony pedal, and it's a fantastic piece of kit. Now, I'm going to show you a few tricks and things that you can do to get the most out of this pedal. Generally speaking, the setting on here that's marked guitar is what you would usually use if you're a guitarist or a keyboard player, somebody who plays chords, because then that means all the harmony is done for you, and that's great. But we have other settings around here. Lots of letters. What do they mean? Well, they are major keys. So if I set the thing to G major, for example, and I've got a G, it'll put the other notes of G major, and you can have voices that are round the note that you're singing. So it's one higher, one lower. La. So you got a la and a la, da da dee, la, la. Voices that are further away, and then voices that are above. La. One voice that's above. La, la. And then that one that's a fifth above, depending on the scale. La, 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 dee, 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 dee. That's great. Sometimes actually one backing harmony is sufficient. You don't want to go too complicated. And then of course the other way. La. So you've got all those possibilities. And then of course a dry and wet control, so you can have more backing vocals if you like, rather than just the dry signal. La. So for the purposes of the demonstration, I'm actually going to have the level slightly up so you can hear what's going on. Now, if you're a bass player and you're playing a gig, obviously you can't use the guitar input now because you're using one line. So if you're in G, la, 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 la. And that's fine. What happens though if you're in a minor key? Because the keys around here are major ones. So how are you going to do a minor? If I try to sing, it just doesn't sound right. How are you going to make this work? Well, the easiest trick in the book here is to use the Dorian mode, which is a scale that begins on essentially the second note of your major scale. So in G, Dorian on G means the key of F major. Let's try that. Billie Jean is not my lover. See, that's going to work. Now, of course, you're reliant on the thing staying in key. You think, oh, okay. So G minor is also the relative of B flat major, so you could try B flat. So the gradations between the letters represent the sharps and the flats. So you've actually got to work out your harmonies to fit. That didn't fit so well as when I played with F major. That works much better. Now, of course, if you have fewer voices, well, I had two there. If I have one voice now, it's going to be even more compatible because you're not going to be worrying too much about whether those three things are contributing to your chord. I shot the sheriff. Yeah, there you go. I shot the sheriff, but I did not shoot no deputy. And you'd switch the pedal off when you're doing your lead line, and then back to I shot the sheriff, but I did not shoot no deputy. No, no, no. And then you can go for your all around in my hometown. That's fine. So we were in G minor there. And we've got F major. Let's try another one. I don't know. How Long by Ace. So that's C minor. So we need B flat. How long that's fine. So that's your practical sort of solution if you're playing the bass and you want to do your backing vocals. Now, it could be that the guitarist doesn't have a pedal or doesn't like using the pedal, or the lead vocalist might not be able to set all that stuff because they're sort of walking around stage, so it's going to be somebody else's job to do it, and that's fine. Now, in terms of acoustic instruments, now the sax player who asked the question, can I harmonise with this mic and this pedal? And yes, you can. I'm an awful flute player, but I'm going to pick myself a nice easy key. Let's have C major. I can just about cope with that on the flute. Now, so let's have a couple of voices above. Now, you may have to adjust the sensitivity of the mic to work with this, but don't have it too high because it bottoms out. So if we just got the C major scale again. So if you play too loudly through it, it can bottom out. Now, I'm an awful trumpet player, but you can do the same thing with your horns. Now, this might be quite a nice thing to have in a soul gig, but you've got to make sure that the thing is not going to bottom out on you or not going to give you the wrong notes. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You can use a violin on it. Now, if you want to connect a condenser mic, all you do is you can buy yourself a phantom power supply, because the pedal doesn't supply phantom power. So you have to buy a little inline power supply which enables you to use a mic which can be, you know, pick up the fidelity of a violin. So I'm going to change it to G major now. There we go, G. Now, it may be, if you're playing violin, you might want some lower voices because the thing's quite high anyway. So if I pick the two voices underneath, lean on me, yeah. So you can do that. So there's your violin. Now, there is something else you can do. In fact, there's masses you can do with this. Now, I have my iPad connected to the input here. You can see the jack going in there. Now, I have a chord sequence that I've made up on my iPad here. The headphone output goes to here for the right channel, and then the left channel goes through my DI box into the computer so you can hear the backing track. Now, drummers very often at a gig will have a track that is a click track. But why not have chords on one side and click on the other? So the click track is for the drummer, the chords can be for your harmony pedals. So if I set this back to guitar now, I'm going to just have one vocal round the side, and then maybe just turn it up slightly there. Now, the chord sequence that I've got is G to B flat to A flat, and then F and D at the end. So they are not in your sort of usual diatonic range that you would have on here for your G major. But I've got the drums and the bass and the keyboards going into this. Now, it doesn't mind hearing the drums. I've tried this already. So I'm just going to make sure I line the vocal mic up in terms of that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to try singing along with this, and you will hear that the harmony pedal will track along with the backing track that we've got here. Now, of course, I sang the backing vocals in time with that, and it had to hear the chord before resolving. But what you could do is you could make the piano part, the chords that you need, you could actually bring them back by an eighth note so that it is fully in tune with what you're about to do. So you can trick it. You can make sure that the intelligent harmony pedal has got a firm handle on the harmony so that when you sing into it, it is absolutely spot on. And it also allows you, very often in the chord sequence, you will have something that is anticipated, so the chords will come slightly before everything else. So if I, for example, I'm just going to, on GarageBand here, I'm just going to make the backing track slightly longer so that I can bring the keyboards in slightly earlier. So I sort of move everything along, and let's see what happens with that. So select all, and I'm just going to move that along. And then we can see how that works. There we go. So I'm going to bring the piano back by an eighth note so you can hear this. The piano will start first. So it was actually slightly better that time with anticipating those chords. Now, of course, you can program up your entire set list. You can do this on a phone. Yeah, you can do this on an iPhone with GarageBand. It's a fantastic program, and it's something that can really serve you very well live. So you plug your harmony into the intelligent harmony pedal, and there's nothing to stop you putting it into a mixing desk and then feeding everyone's harmony pedals with those chords. And it means there's a completely hassle-free approach to your backing vocals. Now, the sax player that asked me about that question, can I use ambient mic? Well, you'll have to experiment with it, but ideally you can get something like this. I'm speaking to you at the moment on a tie clip mic, and this is an Audio Technica one, and it was about £40. So you just put that on your mic, and that can feed your TC Helicon, and then you can go up to your actual mic that goes through the PA afterwards, you know, independently of the pedal. Lots can be done, and this is a very, very good pedal. It also, it'll respond to vibrato and to a certain extent some slides. And it will respond quite nicely to other, you know, instruments like trills, you know, it'll do that. And if you've got a mic that's directional, like the SM58, you could put that, you know, if you're miking up a flute player at a gig and the flute player's got a nice mic that's, you know, that goes out through the PA, you can always have the SM58, which does just the harmony. And it can be nice to have that timbre, that difference in timbre between the lead instrument and the harmony parts. To a certain extent, it does it on this. Yeah, but you can control that sort of thing. You can also have your output going to your mixing desk. You could feed the Helicon input. If you have only a mic input on this to actually harmonise, you could send it from a mixing desk at an XLR level, like a mic level, by just turning the auxiliary down. There are all sorts of things and ways you can patch things into this. So it's very, very clever. You could have a DI box. This is a passive one that I've got here, which is feeding the iPad. You could feed, I don't know, an electric guitar through this, and it comes out at mic level, which goes into your intelligent harmony pedal, so you can do things like the solo for The Boys Are Back in Town, for example, using this. Masses can be done.